The goal was always to landlock Alberta's oil and gas. That was the ultimate goal of the tar sands campaign. We saw it play out step by step, and it continues today.
All of these things have been coordinated by a foreign-funded campaign that calls itself the Tar Sands Campaign, and we want to get to the bottom of it.
Well, good morning, everyone. Our government was elected on a commitment to investigate the existence of well-funded foreign special interest groups that had been waging a decade-long campaign to landlock Alberta's oil and gas resources. I'm pleased to report that we have officially fulfilled that commitment. I'd like to thank Commissioner Steve Allan for the hard work and due diligence that went into the inquiry and for submitting a comprehensive final report. That report, along with the Deloitte report, is now available on the Government of Alberta website. Those reports together provide extensive evidence of sophisticated and well-financed campaigns, such as the tar sands campaign, that specifically targeted the development of our resources. There have been many suspicions and theories about those campaigns over the years. During my 13 years' experience working in the energy sector, I personally saw the evidence of these campaigns as they targeted pipelines like Northern Gateway Pipeline, Line 9, Energy East, KXL, and Trans Mountain. I could see the antics and tactics of these campaigns on the ground. I could see these campaigns as they stacked regulatory proceedings, organized grassroots activities, litigated when things didn't go their way, targeted policymakers, discredited regulators, and even chained themselves to infrastructure. What the public inquiry report does is to document with a significant level of detail who was involved and what their motives were. The organizations involved in these campaigns celebrated their successes as each pipeline project was delayed or canceled. While they boasted, Albertans were hurt. People lost their jobs. Businesses went under, families were hurt, government revenues from royalties were impacted. We lost billions of dollars in royalties. We saw pipeline bottlenecks, and that led to heavy discounts and led to curtailment. While other jurisdictions were able to build infrastructure, we have been deliberately blocked. Albertans have a right to be upset. And while there is justification to be upset, I truly believe that sunlight is sometimes the best disinfectant, and this report does exactly that. It shines a blinding light on the broader movement and the vast amount of foreign funding that is crossing the Canadian border, often untraced. These organizations operated like a business. The Commissioner called it an industry unto itself. They applied for and received funding and grants from multi-billion-dollar foreign foundations. That foreign funding was used to not only target pipelines and projects, but to influence domestic public policy, legislation, and regulatory processes. That should concern all Canadians. We are not talking about small money here. The amounts involved are profoundly large. From 2010 to 2018, approximately $15 billion of foreign funding directed towards Canadian charities came across the border. Foreign funding of Canadian-based environmental initiatives was at $1.28 billion between 2003 and 2019. Many of these organizations operate as an industry, adapting to emerging markets and trends, and jumping from cause to cause. And that money comes across the border with a lack of transparency and disclosure. The funds are hard to find and difficult to trace. It's like tossing a penny into a muddy pond and trying to find it. The deeper it sinks, the more murky it gets and the harder it is to find. That's why the Commissioner's #1 recommendation is for better transparency and governance. For over a decade, these campaigns targeted our energy sector, and it waged on, from protests to blockades, to lawsuits and celebrity arrests, and even dangling from the Iron Workers Memorial Bridge. The goal was always to landlock Alberta's oil and gas. That was the ultimate goal of the tar sands campaign. We saw it play out step by step, and it continues today. Divestment campaigns operating today have claimed to achieve over 1,000 divestments from fossil fuels, representing $8 trillion. Recently, we saw President Joe Biden continue his pleas for more OPEC oil in order to rescue the United States from high fuel prices. If only Canada could have provided Americans with a stable source of energy from a trusted friend and ally that adheres to the highest ESG standards. If only we could have avoided this energy crisis. To be clear, Americans are looking for someone to blame for today's skyrocketing energy prices. I know a few organizations named in this report that they could thank for that. Imagine if the Northern Gateway Pipeline had not been vetoed in 2016. It would have been delivering 525,000 barrels a day of oil to overseas markets. Markets that are experiencing an energy crisis and are stockpiling crude that we can't deliver because infrastructure was blocked. The world is in an energy crisis with a shortage of supply of oil and natural gas. Alberta could have helped. Let me repeat that. Alberta could have helped, but we have been blocked because of these campaigns. Instead, other oil-producing jurisdictions like Saudi Arabia and Russia have been given a strategic advantage. They are able to ramp up production and use that wealth to fund their energy future, whether that is hydrogen, renewables, or clean natural gas. It is a transfer of wealth with zero impact on reducing global GHG emissions. It doesn't make sense, and it clearly doesn't achieve the outcomes those campaigns claim to stand for, such as reducing emissions and protecting the environment. But we can't change the past. We can't change how we got here today. But we can learn from the observations of this inquiry. We have to focus on the future. We have to learn from the very well-executed strategies that these campaigns employed so effectively. We have to learn from that so we can protect the energy resources of the future. Now knowing how these campaigns operate, we can predict that these kinds of campaigns are coming after the next thing, whether that's hydrogen, carbon capture, utilization and storage, critical and rare earth minerals, small modular reactors, or LNG. It's money looking for a cause. We need to ensure that we do not frustrate or delay the development of energy resources of the future. The things that are needed here in Alberta to reduce emissions and set Alberta up to diversify and be competitive in a world that is moving to lower carbon emissions. Our government remains committed to the best interests of Albertans and protecting and supporting the Alberta's energy sector. I'm pleased to say that we accept the Commissioner's recommendations and already are acting on many of them. This includes demonstrating national leadership in emerging low-carbon resources development, enabling Indigenous participation in responsible energy development through the Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation, and things like the Site Rehabilitation Program. And earlier this year, we established an ESG Secretariat, which is set to help capital attract capital to Alberta by sharing a positive, unified, and compelling narrative that showcases Alberta's ESG performance and ambitions. The bottom line is that Alberta's natural resources belong to Albertans, and decisions about their development should be made by people of this province.